Hello, this is Ola from Kampfar.
Hello, this is Dolk from Kampfar, and you are now listening to
The FANTASM Podcast.
Phantasm. Maximum terror.
That's your target audience, baby!
Phantasm.
And you know something? I sort of enjoyed it.
Phantasm.
Sell the metal! Sell the metal! Sell the metal! Sell the metal!
Phantasm.
Hi, this is Dr. Vincent West, medical doctor today. I've got one of my favorite bands on today. We're doing this 7 years. Never had these cats on. They're taking the time to do this. I'm excited as hell to have. From Kampfar, we've got Oli. First of all, which is incredible. And then a surprise guest. We've also got Dolk as well. So we're going to be talking about this amazing new album, Til Klovers Takt, and I just probably destroyed that. But I tried. And we're going to be talking about this record. It comes out November 11th. And thank you guys so much for taking the time to do this today. I really appreciate it.
Appreciate to be here.
Yeah, it's an honor. So, I mean, we've been doing promotion now for for this album, like you said, for the last 3 weeks or so now. So me and Ole are used to talk a lot about this album, but it's really interesting to think that it's actually next week it will be released. So I mean, the cat is out of the bag for sure for us too. So it's quite weird to think about, but it's also a good feeling. So yeah.
Incredible. And real quick, before we jump into the tracks on this album, can you guys talk about the writing process for the new album?
Yeah, it's a long time since we started this album because it was in March 2020 when everything shut down. We were supposed to go on tour. So back then, that's actually when we started writing these songs. And I don't think, I mean, in the beginning we didn't really think about it as making an album or anything, because I don't think we felt ready right from the go, but we had to do something, because everything collapsed, and we were like, okay, are we just going to sit there and wait everything out? And then we just decided that we wanted to just make some new music, I guess for the fun of it. And but that really kickstarted some creativity that we needed. It was actually a good thing to just focus on writing music and don't have to think about tours and booking agents and all that kind of stuff. It was just us and the music, and it, in a way, when we reflect on it, it almost felt like going back in the 90s, when it was just something we did for ourselves, by ourselves.
Right.
Yeah, because it's like Ola said, it's from the beginning, from the very beginning when the pandemic hit the world. So I think it was more of an escape for us actually to go up in I have this cabin up in the north in the mountains there, which I have been very close connected to since I was 6 years old. So I mean, it has been very important to me my whole life, this place. But I mean, it has become a really important place for the rest of the guys in Kampfar too. So I mean, when the pandemic hit us, I think it was it felt like more like an escape for us actually to go up there and more or less be together actually. So, but we're musicians and we're really close connected to that area. So it all started to grow on us, you know, and it's very easy to be up there, and it is like Ole said, it's nothing. I mean, you cannot go to the nearest corner to 7-Eleven or something to buy something, because there is nothing there. I mean, so
right.
There's just us and nature and all the animals. And I mean, it's a very natural thing to maybe go into what we do best, you know, create music, maybe. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And let's jump into this album. And again, I won't, for our listeners and for you guys, I'm a huge fan. I don't want to butcher the pronunciation. If we could talk about the first track on the album, just both your alls, whatever contributions you'd like to discuss about the first track of the album.
Yeah, Lauvstans under stjernene. That's what it's. That's the Norwegian pronunciation. I guess you could roughly translate it maybe to something like dancing free under the stars or dancing alone under the stars, something like that.
Okay.
The word comes from that area, so it's a little peculiar. Doesn't really translate, but yeah. I mean, on these songs, I write most of the core sort of music for these songs, and from a songwriting perspective, this one, I mean, it sets the tone for the album definitely, and we wanted to, I guess, have something that, like, we didn't want to rush anything on this album and these songs, so it's not a song that is supposed to sort of immediately grab you in that sense. It has a slow sort of build up and everything, but it's interesting from a songwriting perspective because it's sort of the core music is sort of narrow, and then we explored whatever we can do with this stuff, you know. So the sort of the guitar and the bass and the drums, everything is quite simple, and then we try to explore everything around those kind of motives or themes. We also brought in this violin player to play a traditional Hardanger fiddle, which is an instrument that also comes from this area and has a very peculiar tone. And we asked her basically to play stuff that you cannot really play on that instrument. So just to give something special in a way, which we think worked out really, really well. I really like this song, and it shows maybe this confidence that we had in ourselves in a way, that it's not a sort of Spotify friendly song maybe.
Sure.
Because it's long and it's slow paced and it has few motives, but I like that kind of stuff. I find it really interesting. What about you, Dolk?
Yeah, I think it's very important to mention before we talk about any song, actually, because it was, you know, our previous album, Ophidian's Manifest, it was so very dark and personal, especially for me and Ole. You know, I was at the darkest spot in my life, to be honest. It was really in the dungeon there, and during that process also Ole lost his father, and it was a really dark personal album, that one. So I mean, to even start to create new stuff and start to create a new album, we had to go somewhere else. And I already mentioned it, that this area, this place means so much to us, actually, and it's all more or less the essence of Kampfar in a way. And we started there, actually, because that valley in Hallingdal or in Hemsedal, it has so much history going on, going back to the pagan roots, to folk music roots, to what the church used to call devil worship and stuff like that. You know, that things that they didn't understand. So I mean, we started with our roots and placed ourselves upon in the middle of it, sort of. So I mean, every song on this album is very, very close connected to the area, and so is Lauvstaden Stjärna too, the first one. It's really connected to the history of the place, and there was, these women that they didn't, the church didn't go, they didn't accept them in a way, and what they didn't understand and what they didn't accept it. Back in those days, they always was an easy solution to go with a witch term, so they easily went on telling that these women were witches, and that they could see them dancing under the moonlight up in the mountains there, and that's actually what this theme is about on this song. So it's a very, very theme about the area, about the history, and about these women that they took to be witches back then, So it's they didn't understand the dancing in the moonlight, and maybe they had something going on there too. We don't know, So it's more or less a historical event from that area where we start the story of the album. So yeah,
it's incredible. I love the tone of it, and then of course the length of the tracks. I love just long epic tracks. You guys always deliver. So let's moving on. Track 2. What can you guys tell us about the second track of the new album?
Yeah, this is another long one, and this is maybe. This is really a song that when we wrote it, I think it sort of set the tone for evolving sort of the rest of the album as well. We explore things that we haven't really explored before, both in terms of sort of beats and tempos and variations. There is a very clear sort of breaking point in this song, like halfway through the song, and you sort of get into this kind of idea and rhythm of how you think the album is going to be, but then it sort of snaps out of that and goes into something completely different. When the first song had sort of a very narrow core idea of motifs and stuff like this one is much more sort of expansive, but it also has sort of some huge parts coming towards the end that are so gives space for more vocals and more interesting maybe drum patterns or fills and stuff like that. It's also, this song is a lot about sort of the core forces maybe of nature, and it places you in this place where sort of everything happens. And we also created a video for this where we basically just walk around in the surroundings next to where we made all this stuff.
Right.
Yeah, but again, it's the same thing. Fountain's is like, it's so connected to the area. It's maybe one of the most famous stories actually from that area. You have.
Now you're on song 3, right?
Yeah.
I'm talking about track 2.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Urkraft, yeah. I can go back to Fountain's, but everything is connected here to this area. And it's like Ole said, we made a video out of this song Urkraft, which we are now talking about, and it's more going into the album itself, maybe more place us in the center of everything, and place us in the center of these valleys, and it places us in the center of the album, and it's sort of the essence of the album actually, because it's like I said, when we started to create this album, it was impossible for us to go further down in the gutter like we did with Ophelia's Manifest. We had to sort of find the power and the strength again to be able to rise like the bird phoenix, sort of. And with Urkraft, that's exactly what this song is about. It's like it's getting the power from the area to be able to rise again, both on a personal level but also on a musical level. So I think they all goes very hand in hand, actually, both the video and the song and the album, sort of. But I mean, for this song especially, it's like Ole said, we made a video, but it was not supposed to be a video either. We just had this guy following us for a long time up there with the camera and drones and stuff. And people were asking about, especially this song and this video all the time. They are thinking that, how did you manage to get this deserted place, or how long did you search for this place? I mean, to be able to make this video, and that's the whole essence of it. Because we didn't search for it, we went outside the door. That's the area we are doing everything in, creating.
It's incredible.
Created the album there, so there's no gimmick in that way,
Sure.
So in that sense, Urkraft, it's maybe the essence of everything, with the members of Kampfar in the center. Yeah,
You guys in your natural state, it's incredible.
Absolutely, and I think we try to, you can see it from the video as well, but we try to really capture this combination, or you have sort of the enormous, the scale of the landscapes and the mountains and stuff like that, but we also try to sort of zoom in on the nitty-gritty stuff, the rocks and the trees and all that kind of stuff that is sort of on the ground, the contrast between these two things. That's sort of a combination also that we try to really encapsulate in this song. So, I mean, I guess for people who don't want to or don't care to listen to the whole album, I think if it's one song they should listen to, it's this one, because it's maybe the most capturing song, I think.
Oh, I think the whole record is fucking fantastic. Everybody should experience it. All of your old stuff is that way. It's always just a fun experience. I'm an album person, not a song person. But yeah, absolutely, it's a fucking killer track.
That's good to hear, because we are definitely album persons as well.
Oh man, you guys deliver every time. And then let's move into track 3. What can you guys tell us about that one?
Well, I can follow up that then, because I was starting to talk about it. On the Fandstral, the third one, that's maybe one of the most easiest one. This and track 4 is very, very more easy to explain, because it's really connected to one of the most famous stories from that valley. And if I can tell a little bit about it, I mean, we always, through all times actually, especially here in Scandinavia, but I think all over the place actually, but I mean, especially here in Scandinavia, there was always these folk musicians that were traveling around, like they were sort of the touring back in those days,
Right.
So I had a lot of respect for those musicians that went all over to play folk traditional stuff. But then again, it's like the church have already got a lot of power here in Scandinavia, like they had in Rome, in Central Europe. And this valley that we are talking about all the time is like, it's still one of the main routes if you want to go to from the east to the west coast of Norway. You have to travel through this valley, and still you have to do that because it's the main road in that valley actually. So it was a lot of impressions from Europe and so that came into Norway, But the folk musicians, they were always really into this close connected roots like we are, you know. And there's a really a story in this song that is one of the most famous one in Nordic folk tunes actually, and it's called Fanitullen, and that's the area just 2 kilometers away from our cabin actually. And there's a story there that something went wrong actually. There was this huge gathering or party going on, and all of a sudden there was a murder, and people were starting to fight, and there's a lot of people dead, and they blame it on the folk musician, and they blame it on that it was the devil himself that played these tunes that made these people go into this murderic
frenzy, basically.
Yeah. So I mean, it's a really story connected to that one, and it's our Fanitullen actually. We call it Fanstral, but it's actually our Fanitullen, which is a famous piece of music in Norway.
That's wild. And then into track 4, you mentioned the 3 and 4 kind of connected. Let's move on into track 4. What can you tell us about track 4?
Yeah, because track 4 it's a really close connected to that story, because there was, like I said, this valley that when Scandinavia was opening up for Europe to get all these new impressions in, especially from there were people coming, from Catholic places and Rome, trying to spread Christianity and stuff, religion in general, and they came into this valley, and there's a story actually that connects this song to and the lyrics of this song to this story, because there was some prophets that came into this valley, but the people in the valley were not ready for them, and in the end they ended up burning them on the stake. Actually,
oh wow!
On a big fire there in the valley, and this song is a pure story of that one. It's not going any deeper actually. It's just our story of what happened there right in the valley. So I don't know if you have anything to add musically, Ole.
Yeah, well, the music reflects the story and the lyrics both on this song and the song before. It's much more chaotic, and the chaos, especially in the fourth song, is sort of a representation of that sort of chaos with all these clash of impulses, and the fact that the people there were, they didn't know what to believe and not believe, and they were sort of almost afraid of everything from here and there, and from the past and from the future. And you can see it like on the stave churches in the area. They have carvings of old sort of Norse mythology and stuff, because they put it there. They didn't tell anyone, but they had to sort of protect themselves against the old gods, but they also had to sort of protect themselves against the new gods and stuff like that. So it's a representation of that kind of chaos, and of course the chaos and the drama in that particular story as well, which is very dramatic. So yeah, the music and the lyrics, they connect each other here.
It's incredible. And then moving on, what can you guys tell us about track 5?
Yeah, this could be a long speech, maybe. I think it's longer. Is it the longest song on the album? I don't remember if it's actually the longest, but it is. Yeah, it has a lot. Yeah, it has a lot of parts. This turned out in the end to be sort of our interpretation of a requiem, inspired loosely by the sort of the classical requiems from the classical composers, but we. Of course, we didn't want to copy that. We wanted to make our own interpretation, from the bass from the base of everything, and I'm very sort of satisfied with how we made our Requiem from a pure songwriting perspective. I think this is a very interesting song. It has many different parts and motives that work together and work against each other at the same time. It's sort of divided into 3 parts, but they sort of mesh together in a way. A very sort of fun challenge. I think I was listening a lot to these classical requiems when I sort of found inspiration for making this song, and I think it was also a big sort of challenge for us, all of us actually, as musicians, and for Dolk as a vocalist, because it's a little bit. I mean, there are many things here that push the boundaries of what we have done before, like way beyond what we have done before. Very challenging, very interesting, and I'm very, very satisfied with this song.
It's incredible.
It's quite interesting that you're more like an album guy, because that's the same with us, you know. Because to be honest, we have been doing Kampfar for almost 30 years now, and we know for sure, all of us, we know for sure what works on Spotify and what doesn't work on Spotify, you know. So in that sense, this album is sort of a promotional suicide in a way, but because we have created 6 long tracks, and we know that, you know, we could easily go with a verse chorus thing going on for 3 minutes or something that hits you immediately, and that's not that's not what we are searching for here, to be honest. Because like with this album, we it's like Ole started with. It felt like we were going back in the 90s, because all of a sudden there was no distractions anymore, and like it normally is when we create music. There's always something that you have to answer. There's some offers for going to tours and festivals. You have to find something for the label or anything. It's always something going on. But on this album, felt like we were back in the 90s, because we had only ourselves in the valley, you know. We did everything in the valley. We recorded stuff in the valley. We create music again, just like we did in the early days. And in that sense, you can say that we didn't think about these things about selling points or anything, and that's for me personally makes this album the best of satisfaction, you know, personal satisfaction. Because it is Requiem also. It's like, what is a Requiem? It's like, it's a lot of parts and it's a long thing going on, and for sure it's the same thing when it comes to the lyrics, actually, because it's like 3 different stories, but the stories connects. I mean, back in the old days, they used to believe that if there were some tormented souls, if you could call it that, during life, that they were tormented, and in the end they took their own life, or they killed them, or whatever, you know. And that's what happened. That is what happening here, because the first part is like these souls that they didn't understand. They were, you know, harassments and tormented all the time, and in the end they get killed, you know. So there is a funeral going on the second part, and on the third part, that's what Ole already said about the track before, because these people living in this valley, they didn't actually they couldn't grab their thing to what was true or not, you know. They were afraid of a lot of stuff, and they were also had this idea that if some souls were tormented during life, they maybe came back, and they came back as demons or wild animals, or they were a little superstitious in that way. And in that third part of the Requiem, these people actually are coming back as demons. So I mean, it's our personal Requiem. Also, it's also a lot of personal lyrics going on there, but in a sense, it's a historical thing put way back as an Requiem today in Kampfar's history. Yeah,
it's incredible.
And we also have to mention again this Hardanger fiddle.
Yeah.
When she played it on this song, we asked her, because she's a violinist, but we asked her to play, because on that part it's sort of very symphonic and stuff like that. But we asked her to play the Hardanger fiddle as if it was a violin in a symphony,
Sure.
To use it in a completely different way than you're used to use that instrument, which gives a completely different tone. Because we also she tried it out with a normal violin as well, and we immediately said no, this is just too nice. It doesn't connect with the area. But when she did it with the Hardanger fiddle, it was completely different. It really sort of hit that spot. That's also a thing that I think is very interesting, to use, instruments from this place in a setting that it's not supposed to be used,
Right.
Yeah.
And then just because we're running out of time, I'm sorry, I have enjoyed the hell out of this. Track 6, if you guys could just kind of sum up the whole masterpiece. This record is fucking fantastic. I love it. Just real quick about something about track 6, and I'm sorry for the time thing's running down, and I don't want it to cut us off.
Yeah, no problem.
Yep. But
I can take a quick introduction to this one, Dolk, and then you can finish it, because this song is again from a songwriting perspective a little bit back to the first song again. This one has sort of simple few motives, and sort of a simple rhythm. But this song, when I wrote all these motives and parts, I really had Dolk and his vocals in mind. This song is very much written, as a serve or whatever for him, because I knew, or we have been working so closely together all these years.
Sure.
So I know things that he can really get inspired by and use. And I'm not going to say anything more about this song, because for me, I mean, the vocals that he came up with and did on this song is, for me, second to none. It's the best sort of vocals in this genre that I've ever heard. So that's just my opinion, I guess.
Yeah, thank you. Just to make it short, it's not a happy ending here either on this album. I mean, this is also a historical thing, but this is to make it short. This is when you end everything and you are crawling down to the death kingdom, and death is sitting there laughing at you, drinking cat blood from a cup, basically. Yeah.
You guys are such an amazing band. This is the best record I've heard this entire year. Kampfar's new album comes out November 11th. It's incredible. Check it out. Dive into the whole thing. It's what I do. I drive around. I listen to it on headphones when I'm at home. I drive around and listen to it in the car. It's a soundscape. It's incredible. I cannot thank you guys enough for taking the time to do this today. It means the fucking world to me. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Phantasm.
And you know something? I sort of enjoyed it.
Phantasm.